registration, which we'll get to in a moment, to support the unique identification and tracking of samples as they move from the field to the lab to the publication. We have to date over 5 million samples in the SESAR catalog, and this is a wide range of sample types from solid rock to fluids, even gases, some biology samples, as well as experimental samples. And we have a global user community of over 1,600 users, and this includes everybody from individual researchers to museums, big and small, sample and core repositories, and other funded entities. And we're a resource that's recommended by funders and publishers. And you'll see here that SESAR is operated as part of the NSF-funded AIDA2 data facility. We're really proud that SESAR is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. So this system was started in 2004 out of an NSF small grant for exploratory research. And out of that, that grant was designed to develop the prototype for the IGSN and SESAR. And both SESAR and the IGSN have undergone name changes as well as many other structural and technological changes over the years as their scope and the adoption of the IGSN has expanded. And truly, we are a system for users big and small. So I'm listing here on the screen some of our larger users. So we surface the collections of some of these users. Some of them have their entire collections online or a portion. More often, they have a portion of them. And many are working day to day to get more and more of their collections online and registered with IGSNs. And so we really think of ourselves as a one-stop shop to surface these collections and make them discoverable to a wider audience and to show the rich metadata that you collect to a broader audience. And in this way, SESAR makes samples truly fair, compliant, so findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And just to elaborate more on what fair samples look like for SESAR, we maintain quality control of metadata through automated validation and curator review when you come to us to register your samples and archive your sample metadata. We support external links to publications, data, and other research products. So you can have everything associated with a single sample in one place, an easy to reference place for you and your collaborators and people who may be discovering the sample from anywhere. We offer an embargo period for your metadata for up to 2 years. And so if you want to come to us and you just went in the field and registered samples and you want to get the metadata organized for that, but you want to, retain and not have those samples publicly out there while you work on them, we support you in that. And that's really important. We want to encourage you to come to us early and often as you work through the life cycle of your samples to submit your sample metadata and update it as you go. We offer metadata profiles that are appropriate to support sample discovery. And this includes capturing provenance information like where the sample physically exists in the world, because this is just a digital representation of that and a digital storage of the metadata that's important to know about the sample. And all of that is tied to the globally unique persistent identifier, the IGSN, which is the International Generic Sample Number. And this allows your samples to also be cited, and we'll get to that later in the presentation. Finally, we offer sustainable accessibility of the metadata through our catalog and our web-based protocols. So this is a secure place to have your data and know that you can go and access it when you need to. This is what our internal dashboard for users looks like. It's called My SESAR. When you first come to us as a new user, you will create a My SESAR account by logging in with an ORCID. We can talk about that further if there's questions about how to do so. This is where you manage your sample metadata. This is kind of your home base, and it's a private working space for you that allows you to register your sample metadata either on a sample by sample basis individually or through a batch or bulk upload, which is facilitated via an Excel template, which we will also cover. And this is where you submit and are issued your IGSNs. This is also the place where you can come back and edit metadata at any time. And so this could look like maybe your publication got published faster than you thought. We like to think positive here, and you wanna update that embargo date. You can do that if you need to push that embargo date out. Maybe you only set it for a year, and now you need to change it to 2 years. You can do that. If you published a paper and you want to update your sample metadata to reflect that paper DOI, you can come do that here. You're also able to manage permissions and access to samples in this space. So if you have collaborators that you're working with that may also want to update metadata or view the samples in their own MyCSAR account, you can give them access. We also have a tool that lets you create a group of samples and export the metadata for those samples in a packaged way. And so if you want to group your samples by a field campaign or a specific, maybe you work in a couple different locations, you're able to do that as well. You can also add image files to your sample metadata, and we are really encouraging of you to do so because in surveys of users and people who search for samples, they talk about the importance of photos for determining whether samples might be good to reuse. So all of that is related to kind of your individual interaction with the MyCSAR system and submitting and storing metadata with us. The other portion of what we offer is this search and discovery portal. Again, it's publicly accessible. And this allows you to find existing samples that may be relevant to your research. Maybe you're going to write a grant and you're trying to figure out what samples might be in the area that you're interested in working. This is the place to do that. I also caveat this with, the system can only be as good as many people have registered. So we have surfaced in the system what people have registered. So it's not going to be comprehensive. Of course, there's always going to be other things in the literature, but the more buy-in and contributions we get to this, the more useful it will be for you and the community at large. You can search the catalog via a number of different types of fields. So here we're surfacing, searching by the sample name, by the IGSN, maybe the rock name, maybe you're interested in certain countries or regions. So we offer a variety of ways to search, and we're trying to always iterate upon this and improve this. And I'll also say that this search is only possible because of the metadata that you submit. And so later on in the presentation, I'll highlight the importance of taking the time when you're submitting to provide as much information as you can. You can also search via a map, and we're really proud of this this search interface. We just revised this past summer in direct response to feedback that we've gotten from users. And Sean, our systems engineer, was absolutely critical in enabling this. We have a couple different base layers and different types of projections to support, say, people working in the polar regions, people who might be interested in overlaying geologic maps from MacroStrat. Every sample that's registered in SESAR gets a sample profile page. This is an example of what one looks like, one that's hosted by SESAR. At the top, you can see the IGSN. This is a DOI. So in the same way that papers have DOIs, IGSNs are also now DOIs, and this makes them citable. We surface all of the metadata that we have for the samples, and so in some cases you will see not provided because we just simply don't have information from the user on different metadata fields. And we also surface the images here. So in this example, this record has a core image attached to it. And it also includes information about who collected the samples and where they're currently archived. And so here I'm showing two examples of that. On the left side of the screen, we can see some information about a sample that's located at Texas A&M University. It's part of the Integrated Ocean Drilling Program, or IODP. And we also see that there's related samples linked to it. So here we have what's called a parent IGSN. So that's the highest level sample. And then some subsamples, maybe drill cuttings, core cuttings that are children. And then there's related siblings. And we can talk about some of those nuances if there's questions later. But essentially, SESAR allows you to have a really complete view of all of your samples and any derivatives that you want to register for IGSNs as well. So I used to work on eclogite rocks, and I would sometimes crush up a portion of it for a powder. I would make a thin section. These are things that you can, these are relationships that you can capture within SESAR. And on the right, we're showing that you can also link, in this case, a journal article and a data set that derive from that sample directly. So all this is great. You're ready to go. How do you submit data to SESAR, and what does this curation process look like? So this diagram is showing an overview of the submission process. First, you as a user will prepare your files according to our guidelines and using a downloadable template that you can download right within MySESAR. And then you submit the file also within MySESAR. And then it undergoes two quality checks. The first is automated, and you'll see the results of it right away. It's a validation that does some simple checks for things like using the approved controlled vocabularies, checking if fields like latitude and longitude contain purely numbers, things like that. If once it passes this check, it is sent to a curator for review. And we're joined today by that curator, Saves. And Saves will check the batch for completeness and compliance. So is the sample appropriate? Is the sample type that's been designated appropriate for the sample based on the other metadata fields? Does the submission include recommended fields like location, and so on? Once it passes that second review, it's processed and the IGSNs are registered, and you will receive your completed submission with those IGSNs back. And if there's any follow-ups that are needed, the curator will send the submission back to you with some questions and recommendations for how to improve the file. When you download this custom batch template within MySESAR, you also get a copy of our quick guide, which is word heavy, but if you take it slow and you go column by column, row by row, you will make it through. And we have endeavored to be comprehensive in providing you with examples of things. And we're always happy to help you with this, and we'll give you a contact email if you have questions as well. We have 70 different metadata fields, right? We're a system that is supporting a broad range of Earth, extraterrestrial, and environmental sciences, and beyond in some cases. And we have these controlled vocabularies for the very specific reason of making our search interface work. So we need the controlled vocabularies to enable that search that is so critical and needed amongst the community. And so this is where I emphasize again that completing as many of the metadata fields as you have information for will make your samples more discoverable and reusable. And frankly, it'll save you time in the long run, because when you forget inevitably, some certain piece of metadata, or maybe a sample description or a field description, or you can't find your field notes, maybe you uploaded a picture of a field notebook. These are things that are going to save you time too. And so SESAR maintains these sample profile pages for every registered sample, and they have this IGSN attached to them. We also have this QR code that you might be noticing on the sample page. This is something that you can print out within my CSAR. We actually offer it in a template for a couple different types of labels that are commonly purchasable in stores. And you can use those to label sample bags. You can use those to label sample boxes. And it makes it really easy for anybody who might be accessing your collection now and in the future to see what the sample name is, what the IGSN is, scan that QR code, and then be taken to the sample landing page to learn more about the sample and potentially also see what products are linked to it. You may be asking where and how do I use these IGSNs once I've registered them? Um, Ideally, in as many places as you can is the short answer. You can add them as columns and data tables, and we strongly recommend this. We also recommend putting them in data availability statements as feasible. You can list them in text if applicable, and also in dataset metadata if applicable. And this topic is a large one and one that's evolving. The best practices for this are evolving with publishers and with DataCite, which is the host for the IGSN DOI. Um, and we'll link in the chat here shortly a resource that walks you through some of this workflow from describing your samples with metadata all the way through to where and how to put them in data sets and publications so that they're linked and resolvable and useful. I want to summarize kind of what we offer for CSAR. CSAR is one of um, several what are called allocating agents for IGSNs. So CSAR is not the only place you can get an IGSN. It is the only place that we know of that any researcher from any country can get an IGSN free without a certain affiliation. Some of the other IGSN allocating agents are unique to certain countries' users. We offer a global catalog to support search and discovery across collections that we're really proud of. We work on our user interface and we work on our vocabularies to support the ways that users want to search, and we want to hear feedback on that. So we'll circulate an email address at the end of today. If you ever have a certain way that you want to search for samples and you're not able to do it, we want to hear about it because we want to support it in the future. Um, we offer curatorial review of sample metadata. This is really important. We are a group that is trained in best practices for sample metadata, and we have worked since CSAR's inception to build these metadata profiles and build these vocabularies. They are an iterative process, and we want to support you in making your sample metadata as rich as it can be to support reuse and to support you and make your data more fair. And like I said, we have worked to build these metadata profiles to support different communities. We're expanding. We try to serve the nuanced needs of polar researchers versus environmental researchers versus experimental researchers. And we need your input and we want you to be a part of the discussion. So webinars like this are a great way to have your voice heard. And like I said, we're always available by email. We have a couple new things that we want to highlight coming soon. We're actively working on improved group and permissions functionality to better support collaborative work, and this should be rolling out here hopefully in a few months. We have ongoing user interface improvements that are planned for my CSAR to kind of modernize it and make things a little faster and more efficient. And we have a new website forthcoming that's going to have a lot more improved guidance and FAQs. And so we're excited to be running these webinars while we're working on some of this and to get your questions and hear your feedback so that we can incorporate that into our site as well. And with that, I want to say thank you. We're going to also circulate a link in the chat to sign up for our newsletter. And this is the best way and most efficient way to get updates on office hours and upcoming webinars and features. And then shortly here, what I'm going to do is hand it over to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open it up for questions. And with that, thank you very much.